Welcome to Inspirational Journeys, everyone. My name is Ann Harrison, and before I introduce my special guest, let me remind you to subscribe to the podcast if you're listening over there, and share it with your friends and leave a rating or review. Or if you're watching on YouTube, be sure to like the video, subscribe to my channel, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss new videos when I upload them. And also be sure to share those with your friends as well. So today, my special guest is Robin Patchen, who is I want to say Christian romantic suspense, but I'll let her tell you the genre. Welcome to the show, Robin. How are you doing today?
I'm really good. Thanks for having me.
So tell us a little bit about yourself.
So like you say, I'm a Christian romantic suspense author. I'm about to publish my 18th book. It comes out on Tuesday. And I'm a mom, I'm a wife. I've got 3 kids. They're 20, 30, 21, and 19. And so I'm counting down the days till I no longer have teenagers. I think there are some moms who are sad, and I'm like, no, the teen years were hard. I'm ready to be done. So we just moved to Austin, Texas area. So we're new here, but otherwise, that's about it.
Yeah, I was about to say, I know how you feel. I've got a preteen.
You do? Oh, gosh.
And she's with her dad right now, but yeah, it's been crazy. But so what inspired you to become a writer?
I think I'm like most writers. I've always sort of had a writer's heart. When I was young, I didn't have the courage really to try it, but I always wanted to be a writer. And I never really tried, and then I had kids, and you know how you do, you just kind of get distracted by life. And then when I turned 40, my husband gave me a laptop for my birthday, and I had had this story in my head for years, and I decided to just write that story down. I had never considered writing fiction prior to that. I don't know why. I just never had. I was a journalism major. I used to write a lot of nonfiction, but starting writing that story, that changed my life. It was a terrible, terrible story. I mean, as often our first attempts are, it was not good. But I immediately fell in love with the process, and I have been writing ever since.
Wow. Yeah, I know. I had that feeling. I started in school myself, and then got distracted, started it bit in 2001, then life happened, and I quit for a few years, and now I'm back at it. So I understand the feeling. So, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say that's exactly what we do, and I'm glad you're back at it. I'm glad we both are.
Right, because it's too much fun not to be.
Well, right.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about your process. Are you a plotter, a pantser, a plantser? Are you a snowflake? I mean, I'm a snowflaker myself because I just started using the snowflake method. So.
Oh my gosh, I downloaded that once, and I just looking at that just gave me hives. So I was like, I couldn't do it. I'm impressed by anyone who can. I can't do it. I am a plotter. I'm trying to get better. I would say that's the thing that's the thing that really doesn't come naturally to me. Plotting is very hard for me. So, but I am a plotter, and so my outlines have gone from sort of general outlines to more detailed outlines. My problem is that I have a tendency to not follow the outline. And then I get lost in my story, and then I'm like, wait, what was I supposed to do? And I have to go back and figure it out. So I'm still figuring it out. I'm 18.
You're kind of a plantser.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know what that means.
A planner and a planner and a pantser, kind of somewhere in between. I'm a NaNoWriMo participant, so yeah, I know that. I'm very familiar with that word.
Okay. All right. Well, and I do plot. I do spend a lot of time plotting. I just am not very good at following my.
Yeah, you plot and then you pants.
That's right. Exactly.
So you're a plantser.
A plantser. I like it. No, that sounds right. I'm going to go with it.
Mm-hmm. So, okay. We were talking before we got started. We were talking about Convenient Lies. How many books are in that Nutfield series?
There are 11 published books, and then there's one that is just for my newsletter subscribers that actually comes between the 4 Lies books, and it comes after those 4 Lies books and before the beauty series. There's one. There's a little novella you can get on my website. I actually think, I don't even know if you can. You kind of have to be on my list and ask me for it. But so there are 12 if you count that little novella.
Oh, see, I got Convenient Lies from and subscribed to your email list through Elizabeth Goddard because
Oh,
she listed it on her book funnel, and she had
okay.
several. Yeah, Lee Strauss was another one. Yeah, so
Oh, good. I love Elizabeth. She and I were in that box set together.
yeah, and I was going to ask you about that. I'm gonna
Yeah.
have to get all 8 of you on a panel one day to talk about that. Did you guys collaborate on that together, or was it a publisher-based thing? How did that
No,
work? That was interesting.
yeah, it was us together. I think that Lynette Bonner and Luana Ehrlich, I always say her name wrong. She's so sweet. She would never correct me. I think they sort of dreamed it up and then invited the authors. And boy, what a great experience that was. We ended up making the USA Today bestseller list, which was the goal. That's what we did. But even if we hadn't, what an incredible experience. I had so much fun with those writers. There were 9 of us because 2 of them, Lisa Harrison, Lynn Gentry,
Yeah.
they co-write. So there were 9 of us all together, and we just had the best time. We got to where we were friends, still are friends, and we prayed for each other, and we just had the best time. I loved it. We're actually contemplating doing another one, which would not be a USA Today run. It would just be for fun because we just enjoyed each other so
Ooh,
much.
let me know because I loved it. I cannot. I got you. You guys have got to go read Dangerous Deceptions. That box set was so amazing. It took me 3 days to read it.
You read it in 3 days? Oh
I
my
read
God.
it in 3 because I had a book between. I stayed up late at night sometimes reading because it was each book was so hard to put down at the end. But let's see, I read one thriller. I had to stop in between, but then I went back to it and read that. Yeah, I know there's one called Deadly Deceptions too. Did you write in that one or not?
No, this is the only box set of original books I've ever been a part of. So this was a first experience for me, and I really I had a wonderful time. It was great fun.
Oh wow, I bet.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your new book, Tides of Duplicity.
Tides of Duplicity,
What was the
yes.
inspiration behind that?
Honestly, I think okay, let me start over. Back in the Legacy series, which were the last 4 books in the Nutfield saga, one of my characters was from a different town. And so she's from this little town of Coventry, New Hampshire. And so I decided my next series was going to take place in Coventry. So the heroine in Tides of Duplicity is actually her best friend. So I had known all along that I was going to write a story about this woman named Tabby, who's from Coventry. But really, the story idea was inspired by my lack of ability to go on vacation in 2020. I don't know. I love to travel. To go anywhere, and everything was
COVID induced.
COVID induced. So my Coventry book, which is supposed to, like most of my books take place in the little town of New Hampshire. It starts in Belize, and then it goes to this little town in New Hampshire, and then it actually ends up somewhere else, and I won't say because I don't want to give anything away. But it was me wanting to go on vacation that that inspired the story. I was like, what can I do to sit and look at pictures of the beach for a few days? So that's what I want.
Believe me, you want to talk about fast paced. That was a fast paced read, and it was
Oh,
a wild ride.
I'm glad you liked it. I am. I am so excited for the world the world as if everyone, but you know what I mean, for my readers to read it because I think it's it's one of my favorites. Of course, I always think that after a book, it's like your babies.
Oh yeah, exactly. I know, right? So is this one going to be part of a series, or is this just a standalone?
So it's part of a series, and the first book is the one that was in the box set. So Glimmer in the Darkness was book 1 in this series. So it's that same little
Oh,
town where the characters in that were named Cassidy and James. And
right.
so the next story is Tides of Duplicity, and it is Jackie and Fitz's story.
Fits, yeah, check and fit. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's the same one. So now, for a long time we couldn't see that because that book was wrapped up in the box set, but it's out now. So it's, if people haven't read it, they can get it on Amazon or my website or whatever.
And believe you me, when Tides of, I would encourage you to read that box, at least, if not the whole box set, at least that Robin's book from there, because, and I'm moving around because I got to plug in my computer, but because you definitely want to read that one first. If well, you can read Tides of do hold on.
Duplicity.
Tides of Duplicity. I'm sorry, my phone is distracting me. But you can read Tides of Duplicity.
It does stand alone,
It
yeah.
stands alone, but I'd encourage you to read that first one first,
Yeah.
if you want to get into the whole series.
It's a good idea. I mean, I'm like that. I like to start with book 1 and go forward. If I find out I've read a book 3 in a series accidentally, it just bothers me.
Yeah.
There's the little OCD in my heart. I have to start at number 1.
Yeah, I know. I don't like I don't like to start a series in the middle, but oops. Okay, I had to get back to that. Sorry. Trying to do 2 things at once here, y'all. So just bear with us. But so no, I don't like to read, but I have had to do that for podcast interviews, read like the 3rd book in a series, but I'll go back and read the rest when I can. So do you have any tips or advice for writers?
I'm an editor as well. I don't know if you know that, but I'm also a freelance editor. And
Oh, no, I didn't.
yeah, so I get to see a lot of manuscripts at various stages. And so one of the biggest things that I tell, especially new writers, is, and this is from experience in my own work, your first book probably not very good. You think it is. It feels good. It feels awesome. But sometimes, we just don't really know how to do it yet. And so I always encourage, I'll have people send me a manuscript and ask me to edit it. And I'm very often saying, you know what, before I edit this, why don't you get some critique partners and let them go through it? Because a lot of times the things that they're going to pay me to tell them, they can find out for free because they're kind of common mistakes. There are a lot of common mistakes that new writers make. And I guarantee you, I made every single one of them. And so it just is the way it is, because writing fiction is harder than it looks.
Yeah.
And it really is. And the more you know, the harder it feels. Sometimes you're like, oh, there's so many. One of the things I tell people is I always sort of equate it to, like, let's pretend like there are 1,000 things that you need to know to write fiction. Everybody comes to the table with some number of those. We all know certain things. So say 500 or 600 of those. Say 600 of those things, and you have them down pat. Like where the periods go and the commas and stuff like that. You basically know a lot of the stuff. Well, that still leaves 400 things. Now, some of those things maybe you're pretty good at. You recognize, like me with plotting. I'm not a great plotter, but I recognize it. I know what my problem is and I have to fix it. So I'm working on it. But there's still a number of things that we don't even know that we don't know. And that's why I think critique groups are so valuable, because you might come with your 600 things that you know, but someone else comes with 600 different things. And you can put those together and all learn from each other. And you have to be careful, because sometimes critique partners may give bad advice. You've got to be wise and discerning whenever you're getting advice from anybody, whether it's an editor or a critique partner or anybody. Because we're not right. I'm not necessarily right when I tell people this is what I would do, and neither will your critique partners be. But I think that's an invaluable resource, and I think that we undervalue it. I'm in a great critique group that I've been in through ACFW, American Christian Fiction Writers, and we've been together for 7 or 8 years or something. And when we started, not one of us was published, and now most of us are published. Some of us have contracts. One of us was a managing editor for a publishing company for a little while, but we all learned together. We all went through it together and grew together and improved together. And we all have different skills, and it's invaluable. So I would say for anybody who's contemplating being a writer, find that little tribe of people who are willing to read your work, and then be the best critique partner that you can be. Take it as seriously as you would want someone to take your stuff, because the better critique partner you are, the better critique partners you're going to find. So that's one big piece of advice that I give to all new writers that I talk to.
You talk about writing fiction is hard, especially when you have to do the research, even the little tidbits of things that you come up, you want to have something in mind, and then you have something in mind, and then you have to go research it because the question's there. And even though you can say research this and then go back later, you may forget. So I'll just go ahead and Google it real quick and grab it. But sometimes it takes a little bit more than just a quick Google to find things.
Oh, that's the truth. The book I'm working on right now, I had this idea, and sometimes I just like, why can't I just write about moms from Oklahoma? That would be simple. I know how to do that. But this idea, my heroine is going to be a medical device developer, like a medical device inventor. She's a research scientist, basically. I mean, do I know anything about that field? Nothing about that field. So here I was just doing this hour with I was, like researching, like how would
I
somebody
know.
get this product to market? What would happen? I have no idea. So, and I hate research. Some people love it. I am not one of those people.
Yeah, no, me neither. I do it for freelance, for my freelance writing, but and
Yeah,
I'll do it, I'll do small bits, but unless there's a topic that fascinates me, I can't stand it. But
yeah.
for Shadow of Truth, I had to do a bunch of research on PTSD because my character has it. So I had to figure all that out.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's hard, and you don't want to get it wrong. There's always somebody in your audience who is going to know if you get it wrong. So
Yep.
you gotta get it. You gotta get it right. One of my favorite authors, and she's also a friend. Her name is Renee Gutteridge, and she is so good at researching stories. My dad was an airline pilot for his whole career, and he said he didn't like to read stories that involved airlines because he said they always get it wrong. The stories always get it wrong. So I gave him a book that she wrote called Skid, which is a humor book, funny book. And I said, read it, let me know. And he goes, she was spot on. Every single thing that she said, she was spot on. Because she thinks it's fun. That's the difference. I hate it.
Well, we all have our niches there.
That's right. That's right.
So, are you traditionally published or?
My first two books, are novellas, and they're Christmas novellas, and they are traditionally published with a small publisher. After that, I actually had an agent, and he couldn't find a home for my novel, and he said, if I were you, I'd indie publish it. People are doing that now. This was years ago when it was first starting to become a thing. Not when it was first going from being kind of taboo to something that writers were doing, on purpose, whether they could get a traditional contract or not. And so I tried it, and I did not think I'd enjoy it because it's a lot of work, but I do. I love it. I think it's great fun. And so I have traditionally published the rest of my books ever since then. And I mean, indie published the rest of my books since then. And I think I'm like most writers. I would love to have a great contract one of these days with a traditional publisher, but it's gone from being something that, like would validate me as a writer to just, I would love to have that experience someday. But if I don't, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with what it wants for me.
Right. I'm hearing from what I hear, finding an agent and finding a trad publisher is like finding a needle in a haystack.
It can be hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there are so even great authors. There are simply so few slots anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And most of them, honestly, are taken up by authors who are already there. Great authors who are already there.
Yeah, the big time people. The
Yeah.
Stephen Kings, Eudora Welty's, Karen Kingsbury's of the world.
Yeah. Or even in our small niche, I'm a romantic, I'm a Christian romantic suspense.
The Lynette Easons, Elizabeth Goddards of the world. Yeah.
Exactly. And they're great authors, and they're still writing, and that's fine. It's just that there just is less room for I'm not even new. I've been at this for a while, but a new contract for somebody. There's just only so many spots for a debut author.
Right.
So.
Mm-hmm.
The publishing industry is struggling, like a lot of industries, and so they're trying to figure out how to make it work and how to make money at it in sort of a new.
Indie publishing is probably going to be indie publishing and small, like small presses, because they're
Mhm.
still independent. The hybrid, the smaller press is still indie publishing, but you're doing it through a small press. Those are
Yeah.
going to be taking the publishing world by storm.
I mean, I think they really already have.
Yeah,
Publishers are trying to figure out how to compete because they can't sell a book for $2.99 or $4.99 even and still make money because they have so much cost on the back end. You know, they've got buildings, they've got mortgages they have to pay.
they have
They've
these
got
big
these,
high dollar cover designers too.
that's right. And the salaries and all of that stuff they're having to pay much more for than an indie author. Um, I just have less overhead. So I can sell my books for less money and consequently sell more books than they're going to do. Of course, I'm not getting in bookstores. They still really have the monopoly on the bookstores. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's just an interesting world we live in so many ways. It's just one more of the
Yeah.
ways we live in an interesting world right now.
Oh yeah, we do. We
Yeah.
definitely do. So, where can people find you online?
So at my website, robinpatchen.com. And if you go there, I am giving away, I always have a free book that you can get. So right now it's Chasing Amanda. And so anyway, people who want to subscribe to my website are welcome to, again, robinpatchen.com. And then I'm on Facebook and I'm easily found with my name on Facebook. And of course, my books are available on Amazon and other retailers.
I'm already subscribed to your list, but I definitely want to go to your website and check it out and get the freebies.
That's right. You always want that new freebie.
Yep, definitely. So, do you have a favorite Bible verse you'd like to share?
You know, my life verse it's Psalm 1:1-3, which is blessed is the man who does not walk in the counsel of the wicked or stand in the way of sinners or sit in the seat of mockers, but his delight is on the law of the Lord, and on his law he meditates day and night. He's like a tree planted by streams of water, which bears its fruit in season. Whatever he does prospers. So that's been my life verse for a long time.
Wow, that is so amazing. So before we wrap up, would you like to close us out in prayer?
I would love to do that. Sure. Father God, what a blessing it is to be here with Anne today. I just thank you for her and for the ministry that she has in this podcast and her writing. Lord, I just pray that you would bless her and everything that she does and that you would bless this podcast. And I pray for the readers or the listeners out there that you would bless them as well. Make yourself known to all of us. Help us to trust you more and know you better than we did before, and just continue to grow in our faith. And I just pray for unity in our nation, that you would help us all to unite under your truth. And all this I pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. And so we challenge you today to go out there and read to get inspired, write something inspiring, and share your creation with the world. For when you've touched one life, you've touched thousands. Thanks for joining us on Inspiration. Thank you, Robin, for being here, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye.